My name is Jeffrey Cannella, and I'm a medical doctor. About 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. I did get it checked out. I went to a neurologist. Ultimately, they decided that I needed to have an MRI of my brain. At that point, of course, there were lesions that they noticed in there that were compatible with the diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. And then I underwent the typical kind of workup with a lumbar puncture, and I did undergo some mainstream type medical therapy for that. I didn't really make much of progress with it, and over the course of several years and follow-ups with the neurologist, it was determined that I actually had primary progressive multiple sclerosis. I was hoping that maybe some of the medications would slow the progress of the disease down even further. And I understand that it's not a curable disease, and I was hoping that if I tried some alternative methods of therapy that I might find that I can slow the progress of this disease down better than what's been happening to date. Well, I think that sleeping patterns have improved. I think that the amount of time I've spent sleeping is about the same. But the quality of sleep is much better, and when I wake up in the morning, I'm much more well rested. The combination is maybe provide better quality sleep to some of the ingredients that are in there. And I would add that just throughout the course of the day, I don't have a lot of issues with muscle spasms in there because I'm active and I'm moving around. Usually when I sit down in the evening, that's when it starts to pick up, and definitely at night, you have a big spike in that, and that's kind of stabilized quite a bit.
All right, so how you feeling, bub?
Pretty good. All other things being the same, diet and other kind of habits and how much alcohol and caffeine I take in, my quality of sleep is much better. So okay. Even for the amount of time that I stay asleep, which is not a lot, like 6 hours of sleep last night, but I wake up and I'm well rested.
Yeah, so during the course of the day, do you think that extra sleep or that quality of sleep has changed your quality of thought and processing during the day? Or, unrelated to that, do you think your quality of processing is better or same?
Well, it can be both, I think. Maybe one may be causing the other, but even independently of that, I think so.
Compared to 40 days ago, what changes have you noticed that probably you could attribute? Because you're a physician, you can divide the word of truth, whether right or wrong.
Right. Yeah.
What do you think?
I just think that a little bit more. I know the word focus is hard to define on there, mm-hmm. but the ability to concentrate better and stay focused on certain things has improved.
How about motor?
Motor seemed to be pretty good. I don't know that there's been a dramatic improvement, but there's definitely been no decrease in function with that.
Over a 40-day period before this, would you have noticed a decrement in your motor performance, your gait, your balance?
So one of the things that's very significant, still as a problem, is I will start out in the morning and I feel pretty good. I have a lot of energy, but it starts to go away, and as it goes away, I become clumsier. Mm-hmm. So I have to be very careful in my environment, where my feet are going, where the curbs are, and things like that, and use my eyes to help supplement what neurologically is not being transmitted in the absence of whatever there's an absence of.
So motor function you feel like has improved?
Yeah, it's maybe somewhat. I mean, it's not a lot, but it's some. And
it's only been 40 days.
It's only been 40 days, and I haven't had any situations where I almost fell or something. And before that was always a problem, because I hadn't fallen until then, but there were multiple times where I almost did.
So overall, you think from a functional subjective improvement or frame of mind, you think that has been some improvement in processing, motor function, focus. Well, that's processing.
That's like processing, right. I was taking Copaxone for a while, mm-hmm. and that was for relapsing, remitting MS. And then this neurologist, I said, well, actually, you probably have primary progressive. It just was later in onset and not a rapid, steep incline on it.
Okay.
But that's what you got. So that medicine wasn't working for you, so they wanted to give me some Ocrevus, which is a monoclonal antibody therapy, and I had a couple rounds of that, but I didn't really seem to be noticing any improvement. In fact, I was still getting like a little slow decline. Mm-hmm. Very subtle, but I live with it every single day, and
Right.
it seemed like it was maybe slowly advancing. So then that's why I was telling Chris, I said, or asking him, is there something? What else can I do?
Yeah.
And so trying this instead, and it seemed like it maybe kind of make everything level off.
Interesting. So describe what lesions you've seen on your scans of your head and your cord.
They're all on the left side.
Okay.
Almost all on the left side, so it affects the right side. And there are about 14 lesions, and they're scattered around. So it's kind of like Battleship, they miss, but hit. So I have some in there, and I just have a lot of.
I'm sorry, I'm smiling, but that's,
yeah. Well, I mean, it's a kind of a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
They're just kind of scattered around, and some of it are in some pretty significant areas.
Yeah.
If I was one of those people who they were all in, sensitive areas, I might be in a wheelchair right now. I don't know.
So from your standpoint, there is a stabilization. Is that okay to say, of your motor function? Not
Seems to
worse,
be. Right.
but not necessarily better yet. We have to, because we're only 40 days in.
Exactly.
And so overall positive.
The process is very slow. In my case, it's been very slow because I was diagnosed 8 years ago. And just thinking back, like I can recall things prior to that. There were earlier signs of it, but I didn't really know to put it all together.
Yeah.
But over that time, it started to kind of like at a fairly shallow incline, and it seemed like it kind of picked up a little bit, and then it's kind of leveled off now, it seemed like. And so maybe this is helping slow that down, because I really haven't had any other therapy for a year.
So what we've noticed in the stuff that we do is we see when we start this whole protocol, we see this reining in of this downward spiral, and it kind of plateaus. And so here we are declining in neurologic function, but it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for us to begin to see this, what I think is a transformation or a morphing of these stem cells into functional cells, whether it's myelin sheath like the oligodendrocytes, or whether it's central nervous system function up high. It takes about 3 weeks in this whole protocol to begin to see something change. After that, we see a gradual ramping up and improvement. And what we've noticed in our Alzheimer's patients, other central nervous system degenerative neurologic diseases, is that it just stops it and it slows it way down. So someone that has been a rapid progression of Alzheimer's, for example, which is really interesting to watch because you see this really tank really fast after it begins, it just stops it. And so they're in their mid-80s and it hasn't gotten noticeably worse. They still, sort of have the same symptoms they had 10 years before, but they don't necessarily always improve. That's okay. If I can rein in that degenerative change, that's all I want. For right now, that's all I can do.